Good. We've gone live. Your belly is right there. As we,
sorry.
Disastrous start.
Just at the wrong time.
How are you this morning on Monday? How was your first weekend properly in lockdown?
It was all right. I mean, I've got a 2 and a 4-year-old, so it's not sort of PlayStation and hanging around. It's sort of a bit of work, but it's also great. I mean, it's the big silver lining for me actually is the amount of time I get to spend with my kids now. It's always been a challenge for me. I've talked for the last several years about everything's a compromise or a sacrifice in one way or another. And fortunately, in this time, we sort of get that back. So, as there are times when I'm like, oh God, I'm going stir crazy and stuff like this, but I'm trying to sort of give myself that perspective that, that this may not happen. We may go back to reality in 3 months' time, and then, I might have another 20 years of not really having this time. So I'm trying to make the most of it with the kids, particularly, as I'm sure lots of other parents are.
Sure. So what does it boil down to when it comes to filling time with a 2 and a 4-year-old?
Survival, mainly. Honestly, it's just try and occupy the time, go day by day. I think as they get older, I've got lots of people that sort of got 6 and 8-year-olds, and they're on sort of school plans and stuff like that. Thankfully, Michelle's here and is dealing with them mainly. That allows me to sort of do this and work during the week. But it's I don't know what the answer is. I think there's parents all over the world having to sort of replan how they do everything, put their roles in slightly different, sort of circumstances. It's tough. It's tough. I can't talk about it with Blake at all. She's 2. Phoenix is aware there's a virus, but I don't really know what it means or anything. And it's such a fine balance between having that conversation. He's obviously aware he can't see his friends and all that sort of stuff. But it's not something for him to worry about at the same time. So, but yeah, everything just blends into one, really, doesn't it? Weekends, all kind of the same thing. You just speak to a different set of people, but on the same format. So I've still been using, I was on a quiz last night with all my family on Google Hangouts, and was chatting with mates and playing poker through things on different. So I've still spent my entire time on, sort of apps like this and social things like this, but just with friends and family rather than work.
It's been a bit of a weird one. The weekends certainly do blend into one. I mean, my biggest concern right now, especially for the 2 of us, very, very relevant, is our haircuts becoming, but day by day, people are being able to watch how progressively bad our haircuts become. They don't start off brilliantly either, which isn't a great sign.
No, it's not a good starting point. Beards as well. I very nearly shaved. Something that you could probably do with.
Yeah, look, it's a collective disaster around the male race around the world for people that are having to think about how and when they need to get their haircut and their beard shaved. So today's episode. So we've got an hour. We've got 2 guests. We've got Danny Lowney, who we actually set up a business with about 4 years ago. He'll tell me when he comes on. And he went on to continue that business. And has done a fantastic job. Gone solo and built a fantastic talent agency, and profiting quite nicely out of the fact that fitness videos are becoming something that people are starting to really get into in this weird time. And then at 12:30, we've got Stu Jones, who manages a lot of the male YouTube talent in the UK. So that should be quite interesting too, about how those guys are developing this situation into something they can take advantage of in a weird way too. So I'll bring Danny in. Let's see if this works. There he is. Look.
Hello.
I'm getting quite good at this. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, thanks. I wonder if everyone else sees me and on top of these 3 guys, because if so, that's quite fun.
No. Don't worry. I've got all the skills. I can move you around the screen. I can do it all from here.
But yes, I'm very well, thank you.
How's business?
It's good, thanks. Yeah, it's uncertain times, isn't it? But I think we're all really lucky to be playing in a place that allows us all, from the talent to the clients, to be doing what we do from bedrooms. That's what these influencer guys are known for, isn't it? So I think we're so lucky to be in a space that really doesn't need to be as affected by many others. And because of that, I think I'm interested to hear what your guys' opinion is on this, but I think we're all in a good place to be seeing this as some sort of opportunity anyway. But anyway, yeah, everything's going really well, thanks.
Good.
It'd be great for you just to give a bit of insight as to what you guys do over at 16th. You know, who are you representing, and what are the trends you're seeing amongst those people?
Sure. So 16th is a talent company. We manage digital talent, and the way we position ourselves and our talent is that we're looking after people who are a good influence on their audience, and it's something that I think isn't fundamentally different from what influencers were doing in the early days and what they're kind of, I would say, supposed to be doing, which is just having a message around something substantive and talking about that, i.e. just giving value to their audience and building an audience, building a community around that. That's been cool for us because it means that we play in fitness, which is kind of where we originated. We all play in education, family, beauty, even kind of any vertical, as long as we can find something of substance. That's who we look after. But yeah, I'd say key categories for us are education, fitness, beauty, and what was it? Was there a second part to the question, or is that sufficient?
How are those guys seeing this as a way that they can actually take advantage of the requirement for content? Yeah.
So I think as you guys touched on, there's been like a quite a big focus on live, and it seems like live has really found like I suppose this has given live like a stronger value proposition, hasn't it, across the board? So the way I've seen our guys use that, fitness has been a big part of it. So for example, Megan Grubb has been doing a workout at 6 p.m. every day, which people have really liked. People have liked that continuity, and people have liked that kind of company, because people are just sitting on their own a lot at home. And then also I think it's kind of given, just on a consumer level, a bit of a workout and then not do it when you're in your living room. So that's been very effective. And then on the education side, they've been doing like live study with me's and kind of allocated study times, which has been really good. Then last night, Jack Edwards did a pub quiz. I think it was at 8 p.m. or 7 or 8 p.m., which was, I think he used YouTube for that, and just live streamed like a pub quiz type thing with his audience. And I saw that was like trending on Twitter. So that was smart. But yeah, I definitely think live has been the main kind of benefactor of this situation, and it's kind of forced a more compelling use case for it.
How quickly did the talent start talking to their audiences about what was going on and following the government advice and stuff like that? Have you seen, because you obviously do deal with, as you said at the beginning, with a slightly more, I think ethical is probably not the right word, but people that are maybe a bit more conscious about what they're doing. Do you see that they were very quick to sort of follow suit and start spreading that advice?
Actually, no. So I think there was definitely like it's difficult to select when the start point was, wasn't it? But there was definitely like a few days of delay before I really saw much response, which I think was a good thing, because it would be easy to kind of latch onto a piece of advice, whether it was like government advice or something like that, and kind of amplify that. But because there was so much uncertainty, I think it's quite difficult to really arrive at like a good piece of advice when no one really knows what the hell's going on. So there was definitely like 3 or 4 days of delay where people were very, very quiet. And then only when people were able to, I suppose, form their own opinions or their own like actual piece of advice, or when advice seemed to be more consistent across the board, would people amplify it. So for example, Sean Stafford, who is one of our fitness guys and a dad, and a business owner. He's got 2 big gyms, in one in Victoria, one in the city. So he's like, for example, he's got the responsibility of an employer of 40 or 50 people. He's got the responsibility of a parent, and as an influencer, like 3rd or 4th. So his advice that I only saw that come out, I think maybe Thursday or Friday, was really to other personal trainers and freelancers, and it was based on kind of like fiscal guidance and schemes that were coming into play, but specifically for personal trainers. Whereas some of the more like lifestyle pieces of advice came out earlier, where it was like how to work from home. That was the other thing I saw was interesting, is like influencers are like pros when they're good anyway. They're kind of pros at working from home. So it's funny that like all of us, like office lot, who are more used to being in an office environment, maybe some of us could actually benefit from turning to them, those kind of and listening to them as freelancers, because it's not particularly easy, is it, the switch?
No, I agree. Influencers have a unique advantage in that content creation. You know, they're the only people that are used to filming content at home. No one else is. There's no production company that's used to that. So everyone else has to sort of figure out how to do this, whereas they just need to keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. I think one point of one difficulty some people have with influencers sometimes when it comes to relatability is that if you have a 9 to 6 office job and your favorite creators are just kind of like seem to go on holiday when they want, or are just working on their own clock anyway, that can be quite like quite a surface but quite an important point of like differentiation that kind of people might struggle to relate to them on. But I think this actually has leveled that a little bit more, hasn't it?
No, I completely agree. Everyone's in the same boat now.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much money you've got, you're still sat at home. You know? Even if you've got 10 houses, you're sat in one of them. You know what I mean? You know, I'm sure there are different levels of comfort that people are in, but you know, there is a unifying factor here, and it's an interesting point, because you're right. Lots of these influencers at times can be unrelatable. This makes them very relatable again, because they're going through the same problems as everyone else.
Yeah.
Question from LinkedIn Live for you, Danny. Let's start with you. Is there an increase in brands wanting to jump in and partner with the live content, or is it driven predominantly by the individual itself? And if brands are interested, what is the response from the creator when it comes to partnering from live streams? Because it's obviously harder, right? Yeah, definitely. I imagine you guys will have much more reps on this than I do, but just from a talent perspective, I think when talent like an involuntary situation, obviously, and potentially quite a controversial one, I think talent can be quite protective of that format. So I think you'll find that talent and the people around them will probably be a bit more would probably approach a brand partnership with a slightly heightened level of skepticism. It's not to say that you won't get through that, but I just think the brand match and the brand suitability probably has to be stronger than ever, because if a talent has created something around a specific moment, and often will be quite proud of that creation, to then brand it can be quite a thing to do. So and there's a couple of things there. One, I think talent will often like for a new project to be brand free for a little while. That I definitely get that quite a bit, which I think is completely reasonable. You want to give something room to really grow, and when it's in its infancy, you don't want to get in the way of its potential. But also when something is so like moment relevant or moment specific, it'd be much easier to be seen to kind of try to shoehorn a brand into that, if that makes sense. But at the same time, if the shoehorning is not necessary, or if the brand allows the talent to really stick to the format they had already been doing, I actually think that can be really Aaron, what do you think about brands and their ability to get involved in live stream content? Because obviously it's a lot harder to be brand safe, or the guidelines become a lot harder to police from a brand. And you know, we've experienced over the years about how much brands sometimes want to control what the content is, or approve what the content is. Like, there's no way to approve a live stream, right? So, you know, what do you think the opportunities are for brands? What do they need to let go of in order to make it work?
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think that is kind of a universal problem now, because I don't think we've got that time, even if it's not live, because the world's, if you just think about where we were a week ago, content that was made that was perfect for a week ago is now out of date, and that's not normal. You know what I mean? It isn't. So, the reality is all brands are going to have to get used to producing stuff that's either live or very close to live, which means that the control they have over the message, is going to be slightly more challenging. The problems brands have had in the past is that they say they stand for things that they don't stand for. The easy thing for brands right now is a lot of them actually are standing for things. So it's going to be a lot easier. If you're a supermarket who is actually giving stuff to the NHS, you've got to worry about a reaction. There won't be one. You're giving stuff to the NHS. Now, 6 months ago, if you said, we're giving stuff to the NHS, but actually you're not, you're giving 0.5% of something that equates to nothing, then you're going to get abuse for it. So I think because of the world we live in, brands are almost forced to actually do what they say they're going to do. Because they're forced to do what they say they're going to do, they need to worry about what they say less, because they're going to do it. So I think the problems are going to be, whether it's live or not, the live side of it is perfect for where we are right now. In a world that's changing so quickly, there's nothing better than live content. So I think all brands are going to have to dip their toes into it, because it's where the audiences are, and brands have to follow the audience. It's very simple.
And also, I mean, we're seeing the Danny touched on it a minute ago, like the emergence of, like, I suppose, episodic content as well. So things that go out at a certain time. Yeah. We've seen the success of that when it comes to non-live content on YouTube, where people are going to release a video at 6 p.m. on a Friday or whatever it might be. Like, we know that works, but it's been very rare to see, except from on a very few occasions, or very few creators who create daily or near daily content at a certain time. But we're seeing how effective that can be, and we know how effective that is based on the success that TV's had over the last 60 years. We know that works, but no one's really grasped that on the influencer on the content creation online yet. And this is going to force that. We know, what you said, Danny, around the fact that Megan is doing something at 6 p.m. every day, and people are liking the consistency of it. The same goes with Joe Wicks, and we've talked about that. We're doing this at 12 o'clock every single day, every single weekday, talking to different people in the industry. Again, we see the same people tuning in every day, eating their lunch alongside us, listening along to what we have to ramble on about. But that bit of consistency is breeding audience, and certainly breeding retention. What do you think that the longevity of that is, Danny? Do you think that Megan will see that as something, as an opportunity going forward?
You broke up a little bit. Do you mean the opportunity in live or in episode?
Yeah, the opportunity in that kind of continual episode content, where she's seeing success right now, posting something live or something at 6 o'clock every single day, and people are liking the consistency. Do you think that there is an opportunity for her to do that in the long term, not just in the situation?
I think so. She happens to be one of those creators who does actually lean on the kind of set schedule a bit more than others. And I know that on Sunday afternoons, for example, when she'll upload a YouTube video, it'll become a bit of a thing, a bit of a moment when people are kind of taking photos of them, like with a glass of wine or something on their sofa and watching it on the TV. She's kind of one of those, I suppose. So I definitely think that's in there. The only thing, though, I think, because you make a really good point about like schedules having worked for so long. The difference with, let's say, YouTube content versus a live would be that the live needs to happen at the same time, and it's only really interesting when it's happening. Like, obviously, it does have some rewatch value, but it's really most interesting when it's happening. Whereas a piece of content that's uploaded to be watched at any point is completely asynchronous. So usually it doesn't really matter if I watch it today or in an hour or in 3 days or even in 3 weeks or 3 years. There can still be the kind of value curve does decrease, but way less than it would if it was alive. So because of the like kind of synchronous or asynchronous nature of the two, I think there's less value in a schedule for non-live content. But I think probably a lot of people will have will have seen the benefit of it and will continue. And I also think, just from a lifestyle perspective, I think lots of creators struggle with any kind of structure. So if they know that they're going live at 6, or if they know they're going live at 12 or at 9, it means they have a reason to get up and get ready and produce a piece of content, doesn't it? Whereas I think, as going back to them as freelancers, I think they can really struggle with that sometimes, especially when they're relatively young and haven't really had the benefit of being able to schedule a professional day before. So I think from a lifestyle perspective, it could actually help more than a, or in another way anyway, than a kind of community building perspective.
I think it's also, I think there's a race now to fill, the calendar. The conversations with brands 3 months ago were about, okay, what are our consumers doing on a minute by minute, day by day, week by week basis? And then based on what they're doing, how can we interact with them? Now, that's changed because people are doing nothing. So the answer to what are they doing is fuck knows what they're doing. No one has any idea what they're doing. Most people are sitting on their hands, right? So the actual opportunity is to recreate a new structure of what those consumers do on a day-to-day basis. And that's what Joe Wicks has done. He hasn't tried to fit in. He's accepted, there's a blank page here. Well, if I'm the first person to establish myself as the fitness influencer at this time in the morning, then that'll be the new thing. And that's, we've gone from a scenario where there were 10 things on at 8 o'clock, and you had to, if you were one of those 10 things, you had to fight the other 9 to get people to watch you, to there's one thing on at 8 o'clock. And the first person to sort of say that loud enough becomes the one thing. And so that, I think, is the real opportunity for creators right now. Is the landscape's empty. There's very little content being produced anywhere in the world. Even creators are not producing the amount of content that they should be creating. Like, we're doing a live stream every day, we put a blog out every day, we put 2 or 3 other bits of it, and this is not our job. Our job's to run an advertising agency, and we still are able to do this. There are influencers sat there at home who have literally nothing else to do, and they're still putting a video out every week or 2 weeks. These people are insane. They almost don't deserve their audiences, to be honest. Like, if you're not going to put lots of content out now, when are you? When everybody is desperate for it. So, what I would say to everyone, creator, brand, everyone, is put as much as you can out, because there is a chasm. There is 1% of the amount of content out there today than there was 3 weeks ago. And it's going to get worse and worse. So, we need to build that. All of the other time that people used in their day to do other things is gone. So people have gone from wanting to consume content for maybe 3 hours a day to wanting to consume content for 15 hours a day. But there's less content being produced. It's a supply and demand issue. From your side, Danny, it's your job essentially just to make all of your creators put as much as they possibly can. It's got to be the right stuff always, but there's such a gap right now. They should just be putting constant communications out, in my mind.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry, Harry.
No, I was gonna. There was a question in the comments from Shauna that's pretty relevant for you, Danny. Do you think the influencer industry will be changed for good after this, or will it not? Will it be deeply affected? Hoping it will go back to normal eventually. That's Shauna Doyle. If you have got questions, please keep them coming. But yeah, do you think the influencer industry will be changed for good?
Well, I suppose there's 2 ways that I can hear that question. One is change for good as in change forever, or change for good as in change for a benefit or a positive. I definitely don't think it'll be changed forever, because I think nothing has as big an impact as it feels in the moment. But in terms of will it change it and bring more positive out of it, I would like to think so. I'm not convinced though. I think if I think about it from an industry perspective, if we as a channel can really show how effective we can be in a time like this, then yes, because whilst, let's call it, I don't know, events marketing, or if you're shooting kind of content for TV ads or things like that, that stuff's been shut down. Shoots and studios and stuff were shut down very, very, very early in this. So to produce a TV ad or to produce a magazine campaign or anything like that has become so much more difficult. And there's no reason why what we do shouldn't happen as much as it did a month ago. So if we can show like our resilience because of kind of our creative freedom and all that kind of stuff, I think yes, it's a good opportunity for us to kind of flex that muscle, I suppose. But that's really down to us and how we respond as industry stakeholders. I think Goat would have a massive part to play in that. Clients would have a big part to play in it. People like us would have a decent part to play in it. But I would, Aaron, you put the last thing on me. I'm going to put this one on you. I think this is something that you can really, you guys are in a good position to kind of do us proud and show how resilient we can be. What do you guys think?
I think the world is going to be better after this. And I think influencer marketing, just like anything else, will hopefully be improved at the back of that. I don't know if influencer marketing will uniquely be, made good compared to other things. But there's going to be a lot more influencer marketing now because it's always been the best way, but it's now basically the only way. So there's going to be a lot more attention on it, which means hopefully the good things that influencers do, because the press is still what most people think influencer marketing isn't what influencer marketing is. But the average person thinks it's use someone off, Towie or Geordie Shore to promote some beauty product, and we don't do that at all. We're the biggest influencer agency in the world, so that can't be influencer marketing. Therefore, influencer marketing is about getting people with niche audiences to talk to niche communities, and at a time when people are bored and their interests externally outside the home have gone, I think there's a big opportunity for influencers. I don't know if the obligation on them to be good is any greater than the average person. I think hopefully there's a sort of change in the human consciousness that happens at the back of this, that we all become a little bit better, a little bit more neighborly and things like that, focus a little bit less on ourselves. But I think the obligation that everybody has is to keep going as well. There's a question here from Kirsty Angra. Question: is it still okay in this climate to promote your business/online course, especially if it is targeted at home working setups? People still need to earn money, but are feeling uneasy about promoting things for monetary gain. So I'd be very clear personally. I think that you absolutely should carry on. You absolutely should continue to advertise, and you should continue to try and get work into your business. If all these businesses are ecosystems, if we stop doing business, it's not just us that goes down. There'd be 500 talent companies in Europe that would go down. There'd be a whole load of other suppliers. There'd be tens of thousands of influencers that wouldn't get paid, et cetera, et cetera. So it's on us all to keep businesses going. I think the only thing you can't do right now is try and make a profit around medical devices. So if you're buying ventilators or masks or antibacterial gel in order to make a profit, you will go directly to hell. But everybody else, we've got to carry on. If the supermarkets stop serving food, we'll all die. If TV companies stop putting the TV on, if the news stops happening, if deliveries stop happening, I think the more businesses that stay going, the better society will be in general. So if you're a business owner thinking, oh God, I don't know if I should keep going, how will people judge me? I'll judge you if you don't keep going. You need to keep going. You need to keep going for your staff, for your suppliers, for everybody else. The more normality we can bring to this, the better. We all need entertainment. We all have time on our hands. If you've got an online education course, there's never been a better time to go and sell that. People need it now more than ever. People are more likely to take up a second language to try and teach themselves something. So I would encourage people to keep going, to not think, oh, I'm doing something wrong. You are only doing something wrong if you are trying to make money off medical supplies. If your business is not medical supplies, keep going.
I think it's a great time to prove value as well, to show value to audience, to show value to consumers. Like if you're providing something that is valuable for people that are stuck at home, then it's a great opportunity for you to get that product out there. I think you need to be conscious and tone sensitive about actually how you get that out there, but I don't think you should hide away from the fact that you're still operating as a business. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Don't make jokes about coronavirus, right? Don't do that. Don't try and be funny on it. It's very serious. Don't do that. But people still need to laugh, and so make a joke about something else and just recognize the severity of the COVID-19 situation would be my advice. So yeah, tone is important, but I think most businesses, we're the real sort of panic of, oh my God, what are we going to do is sort of going now. Most people are now looking for, okay, if we're going to be trapped here for the next few months, what are we going to do with ourselves? Because there's a real problem here that the risk is not just Corona. If everybody's locked inside for a long period of time, the mental health factors, the fitness factors, the fact that, if Danny gets his fitness influencers to do that may genuinely, help people's health during that period. So I think there's a lot of good that can be done by society keep going.
Yeah, I completely agree. The only thing I would add to what you guys said, which I think was absolutely spot on, was there would be absolutely no ethical issue with continuing to sell a good product like that. I think the reality is also that at-home education and similar kind of products, whether it's a guide or a masterclass or anything like that, is going to be in higher demand now. So the competition is going to be more fierce, and it's going to be harder for you to cut through that. So that's why I think we've seen lots of people kind of, whether it's doing live workouts or doing live content for free, you might just have to be realistic about the business model behind it, or the economics behind it as well, because it's going to be more competitive now, which it should be. And so as long as it's high quality product, then there's absolutely no issue. Danny, it has been a pleasure having you on. Really, really appreciate you spending time with us here on Monday. A real pleasure. A busy week ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for having me, and keep doing what you're doing, and we'll keep watching from the other side. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, mate. See you later. Right. I've got guest 2 waiting. I'm going to bring him in now. Stu Jones from Upload Agency. Here you are. Prized him away from his Twitter account and his newfound TikTok fame.
Yeah, my dance was good, wasn't it? I wasn't even that drunk. Yeah, I wasn't even that drunk, but there we go.
How are you, mate?
How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. We're getting there. It's a bit of a weird Monday, isn't it? It's kind of, normally Mondays you're going into the office, catching up from the weekend, and it's kind of 100 miles an hour from the get go. But working from home is a bit of a different vibe.
Yeah, you are used to working from home to an extent, at least. So such a full-on change for you.
I mean, we have offices for the merchandise business and staff in there. My partner, she manages that on a day-to-day basis, and I tend to kind of try and separate the merchandise business and the agency. So if I'm working on the agency, I'll work at home, and if I'm working on merch, I'll go into the office in the warehouse. So yeah, I work from home a fair bit, but it's still a bit different.
Yeah, I bet. So for those that don't know, I think you may remember Stu for a long time vlog watchers from the KSI vlog in LA. So Stu obviously has been a talent manager for some of the biggest YouTubers in the UK for a long time. He's also one of the biggest merchandise providers for influencers. Specifically on the merchandise side, Stu, I've seen a few people dropping in the last week or so. What's going on there? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so I mean, as it stands now, and certainly for April and maybe May, our staff, unfortunately, the warehouse staff have been furloughed. We've effectively ceased the operation of the merchandise for the next 2 months. Not due to government advice, because the government guidelines allow us to stay open. It's more to do with the courier network is so disrupted at the moment. Our influencers, generally, on average, 40% of what they send out goes overseas. There's about 40 countries in the world at the moment that have an embargo on shipping, so you can't ship to about 40 nations in the world, which includes Canada as of today, Australia, and a lot of the English-speaking countries where the influencers have their audience. So it was more a decision we dropped I'm Alex merchandise last week. He actually did very well, probably I would say, I guess, 60 to 70% of what we would expect him to do on a normal drop, but still incredibly well. in terms of numbers. So we just finished that drop off and delivering that last week, and then sent the staff home as of Wednesday for the foreseeable future, with the exception of the web team and the operations team, which can work from home. Obviously, the production team and the printers and embroiderers need the machines to work, so they can't work from home. So we made the decision to kind of effectively pause operations for at least a month, in all likelihood, probably till May. And then we'll resume in June with a big hit. Hopefully, by then we're over the curve and everything is a bit more normal, shall we say?
And I've got no doubt you'll when it does open up, there'll be a whole range of new lines and all sorts of other. I imagine you'd have a very big month when that does finish.
Yeah. I mean, the next 2 months, the focus is from the operations and the web team to get everyone set up to launch. So that will be designing their products. We can still run samples. My partner, who lives with me, she's the production manager, so she can go in and actually make the samples, and we can still go into the office, the two of us, because obviously we share a house, so we don't need to socially any social distance. So we can do bits and bobs, and the focus is getting all of the stores ready from June onwards. We're quite lucky in the fact of this came along when it did now for the merchandise business, because if it had come along in October or November, then between 60 and 70% of our annual revenue is done in November and December in the lead up to Christmas. So that would have really hurt us. But as it stands, it's not too bad, because it's quite a quiet time for merch.
Interesting. And what are the guys saying? What are you obviously you're very close personally with a lot of the biggest YouTubers on the planet, to be honest. Are they very reticent at the moment? Are they worried about reaction? Are they starting to feel that they sort of have a responsibility and they're going to be producing more content? What's been the initial reaction from that large community?
I think for a lot of YouTubers, it is kind of business as usual, almost. I don't really see a huge, and I was kind of waiting and watching on in your previous conversation. I don't see a massive change from a lot of YouTubers, which is really surprising, because you would think that that creators would take advantage of the fact of their views are going to be higher, and also, to be fair, the same as all of us, they've not got an awful lot else that they can be doing. So why not? If you sit in front of your computer and create some content, lots and lots of them live with each other as well. So there's still opportunities for them to create content while still obviously social, without having to go out and meet other people, etc., and compromise their social distancing. You'd have seen the Sidemen obviously come out with the video yesterday, which was kind of a sign of how influential and influencers can be. If you look at the views that it's got now on the message to stay at home, and that one campaign from the Sidemen will probably do more to actually get people to stay at home than many of the government led responses, such as the influence of the Sidemen and other creators to be able to tell people to stay at home.
100%. I thought it was a real sign of the industry progression that they put that out themselves, that it was organized by them, that they sort of realized their social responsibility. I think 2 or 3 years ago I just couldn't see that happening. It was all too separate, and the community wouldn't have pulled together in that way. Whereas I think, I assume JJ was the one that was, probably Josh, but the fact that JJ's in means everyone else gets in. I thought it was really good.
That's important to note as well. That's their own idea, completely off their own back. No one's pushed them in to do that. They felt that it was right to be able to send that message out to everyone.
That's what I love about it the most, to be honest, is that I think 3 years ago someone would have had to have forced them to do it, whereas the fact that they've come up with it themselves and done it themselves, I think shows that they understand their own roles and responsibilities here, which is great.
And it does. I mean, I'm definitely not going to name any names here, but for example, one of the creators is looking to do a charity video in which Premier League footballers get involved, and there's kind of £1,000 penalty that will go to COVID-19 charity. You'll guess who it is once they release the videos, I guess. But I contacted literally 10 minutes ago a well-known Premier League player, shall we say, and that's all I'm saying in terms of the name, asking if he would jump in the video, and his response was, yes, I will, but I don't do anything for free. And it's like, really? So maybe there's a difference between what the creators will do and what footballers will do as well. Yeah, I don't know why I just threw that one in, but I thought you'd be interested in that.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Obviously, the gamers are doing very, very well out of this. They're already used to creating loads and loads of content. There's a question here from Finn Jones in the YouTube comments. So, do you think Twitch will have an increase in views as gaming is increasing? Obviously, you work with a lot of different gamers in the male UK influencer space. What are you seeing from those guys who are so used to creating multiple pieces of content a day anyway? Yeah,
I think the gaming it is going to be, and I'm trying to make sure I'm careful with my words. I don't want to say the big winner here, but in those terms, in terms of it's something which is going to obviously do very well whilst people are stuck at home consuming content, and Twitch numbers are only going to rise as people seek to entertain themselves and kind of run out of things to do at home. So yeah, and certainly gaming is going to be one area which really kind of the numbers really increase over the next few months. And it's certainly somewhere where publishers, again, I was looking, I was watching on with Aaron as you were speaking earlier about the kind of ethics of promoting. We're having that with a few publishers of games and mobile games as well, kind of doubting themselves and saying, should we really be promoting at the moment? And I'm completely agree with you, Aaron, that absolutely they should be. This is it's the right time for them to be promoting. People want entertaining and want things to do at home, and game is obviously key to that.
Yeah, exactly. It also, the more everybody stops, the harder it's going to be to come back out of this. There's, even if you keep going at 50% of what you were doing before, it'll be 10 times easier to come out than if you stop. The only circumstances where you should stop is for the reasons where you've had to shut the the factory, but it's not a factory. You know what I mean? The warehouse, because of a health and safety thing, and because you think you have to do what you have to do. But if you can keep going, I think there's an obligation to do it, because it will make it a lot easier for us all collectively to come out of it. I don't think anybody's going to hit a brand for marketing. I really don't.
So as long as they're on point and they're not seem to be taking advantage of the situation, and directly name dropping coronavirus and etc. As long as it's marketed in the right way, in their normal style, then there's no issues at all in my mind. And in fact, they can, with the increased views across YouTube, but not necessarily that much of an increase in the influencer expectations on what they'll be paid. They will get more value for money at the moment as well, because they'll get more views, but not necessarily the same level of extra fee they'll have to pay for it.
What are the sort of brands that are reaching out right now? Obviously you get an influx of brands who reach out throughout the year to different creators, and you have probably a very good feel as to what those average kind of brands are across a normal period. What are the sort of brands, what are the sort of companies or services that are looking to promote right now? Are they the normal ones, or are they being weighted in different ways to gaming and apps and things like that?
In all honesty, in the last week or so, there's been kind of a bit of a lull. I think where we've just come off as a business of our, in terms of revenue, the strongest year that we've had in 5 years. The strongest month, is in the month of March that we've had in 5 years, which has been good timing because it's bought us a bit of time should it drop now. But I think in the last week, there's definitely, we manage about 20 email addresses of talent. And there's been a significant decrease in the amount of income and stuff that's coming in the last week. And I'm hoping that's because people are just kind of taking stock and saying, okay, and building a new plan. Because this is a new planet now. This is a new world. So I'm hoping that is the reason, and then it will kind of kickstart again over the next few weeks. But the likes of the if you look onto on YouTube, the kind of normal brands such as your ExpressVPNs, NordVPN, Honey, kind of those sort of brands, and even you it's turned into a bit of a meme now, but your Raid Shadow Legends, they should absolutely continue the fantastic work they've done on YouTube already and keep promoting, because especially with VPNs, that's key nowadays if people want to access Netflix USA and get different shows, etc., to occupy their time. Obviously, games, mobile games, Raid Shadow Legends is people will be looking for things to entertain themselves. So hopefully they continue, and it looks like they are continuing through. And any similar brands really should be looking out. Unfortunately for us, we kind of changed focus or steered our ship towards sports and lifestyle over the last 6 months, being our speciality and where we specialize. So our pipeline was pretty much wiped out for the next 3 months, because it was all based around the end of the Premier League season, Champions League and Euro 2020, and then the Olympics, which obviously not happening. So gaming's going to be the big focus, I think.
So you've got a history in events. You obviously were put on the some of the first YouTube boxing, and have done lots of events. The events industry probably, up there with restaurants, maybe even worse hit than restaurants because they don't have a takeaway option. What are you seeing in that community, the people you're speaking to in the event space? It feels like probably the hardest hit area.
Yeah, we had a bit of an exclusive for you. We had an event, event already booked in that was due to go ahead in the first week of June at one of the big indoor arenas in London. We had to cancel that. So along with we'll look to reschedule it for later in the year. But if I'm being honest, are they really going to be allowing several thousand people to be in the same space in 6 months' time? I'm not too sure. I think from the briefing that we had yesterday, where the deputy medical officer kind of came out with, and to me, she was setting a very clear expectation that it's not going to go back to normal for at least 6 months. Now, that means potentially that these big events aren't going to be able to happen for 6 months. So pretty much everyone in the events industry is subcontracted. So if they're not it's self-employed subcontractors, whether they be sound engineers, PA, event managers, production crews, etc., and everyone that puts on the event. So when the events stop, they literally have no income. So it's a really tough time for the events industry. We're lucky that we could cancel the event, and kind of the event side of things that we do are our side business. So whilst it's hugely disappointing, and we hadn't gone so far down the line because we were cautious as well, where we'd committed to expenses, etc. But other people in the events industry are in a really bad place. But looking on the positive, I think once we come through this and come out the other side, there is going to be so many events, so much content out there, so much for people to go and see. You're going to see events almost every week. The sporting calendar is going to be jam-packed, and that's kind of what keeps me personally going through it, missing the football and everything else. When we come back the other way, everyone is just going to want to be out and about every single weekend doing things, because we're going to be so appreciative of our freedom and what we can do. And so I think the events industry will recover in the end, just purely because I think it's going to be, once this is over, it's going to be such a different world.
Do you think there's and obviously no one knows, but do you think there's a chance we have a sort of an extended period of like behind closed doors sort of events where, you might have the football on, but there'll be no one in the stadium, and you might have a boxing event. You might have a fight, but it will just be the fighters, and there'll be, everyone else will be at home. Do you think there might be a sort of 6 month hybrid until we actually get back to going into venues?
Yeah, no, I think so. The natural step, the biggest thing that we can't do at the moment is test. But the government are ramping that up. Once it gets to a point where they can where they can safely test all of the football players without taking testing kits that are needed for the NHS and people that really need them, for example. So a football match can take place and they know that everyone on that football pitch has not got coronavirus, then you would think that the government will want sporting events to happen again so people have entertainment and that little bit of normality, even if it is behind closed doors. But I guess that can only really happen once the testing kits, so they can make sure that everyone within a certain area doesn't have coronavirus, is at a level where it's kind of overflow of stock that they don't really need, because you can't have. I mean, it's still footballers getting tested, etc. At the moment, you see how people are reacting to Hudson Odoi getting tested. Why is he being tested? If you imagine that whole teams are going to be have to be tested for that to take place. So yeah, I think it will go behind closed doors first, hopefully within the next few months, because you just can't lock people away, sort of thing, and not give them any content for such a period of time without it happening. They're going to need to do something.
Yeah, good point. Random question we were talking about today for the vlog. What's the thing that you are missing the most now, personally? For me, it was Starbucks coffee. I'm so for a venti cappuccino.
It's a pub. Yeah, I'm not gonna. It's a pub. I miss a pub. It's the pub has always been my kind of escape to kind of wind down and just put work aside. And yeah, I'm missing the pub. So much so that I was looking for flights to Sweden yesterday because I heard their pubs are still open. But I'm not going to do that because that would be irresponsible. But I did look for flights. So yeah, I'm missing the pub. I'm missing just the general day-to-day contact with people and friends, and kind of being able to go. I like you said, I think they will actually come out of this the other side a better as people and better as communities and better as a nation. I think we'll be a bit more appreciative.
I think I'm missing the variety the most. Like just being able to not necessarily missing certain people or not missing, the fact that we've got lots of people in the office, and I'm just missing the variety of being able to talk to whoever I want about different things, and things happen, and being able to react to different bits and have a laugh with people in different way. Like it's just a variety. It's nothing specific. Like being able to choose what I have for lunch rather than being, limited to what's in the fridge. Like all the things that you take for granted. But yeah, the variety of what's being offered to me on a day-to-day level with, I've got 2 housemates and that's my lot. And then I've got what's in the fridge and that's it. And I've got one shop if I want to go to get food, all these different things, and I've only got that. And that is just, in a world where, especially in London, in a world which is so free and liberating in the way that we can do anything at any point, because we're in an incredible city in an amazing country that allows all that. We're just completely stuck. So it does feel like we've gone backwards in some ways. The variety is definitely what I'm missing, and little things like lunch options. Being able to walk and get lunch, go to Pub Garden as well is something this weekend that I miss a lot. Yeah.
I think that's it. I think the summer. I mean, I'm in my mind, just from being a realist, I've definitely kind of written off us having freedom to do whatever we want this summer, and that's kind of a strange feeling as well. I mean, I've bought a Peloton, which luckily was delivered last week, and I'm just going to use this time to work hard, but also to get fit, because I can't go to the pub and drink loads of beer and eat bad food and wake up with hangovers and comfort even more. So I'm turning it into I'm going to not be as podgy as I was, and actually use it as a kind of motivation to get fit, and that be my focus. And then hopefully when I come out the other side, I'd have got something out of this.
Right. As good a thing as any.
Agreed. Stu, it's been a pleasure having you on. That's us probably wrapping today's up. Appreciate you coming on and sharing what you shared. I hope that family stay safe and the business continues to thrive despite these weird times.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're here every single day, 12 to 1, hopefully getting you through the lunchtime slot whilst you're at home and got very limited amount of people to talk to. We'll have a show every day. We've got different guests every single day, people from GOAT, people from outside of GOAT who are coming in to talk about different situations they find themselves in or different industries that they're in. We're going to try and mix up as much as possible. Today was far more influencer heavy. Friday, we had the media editor of The Guardian on. So if you haven't seen that, go back and watch it on our YouTube channel. That was really, really interesting, talking about how the questions get selected for the Prime Minister to answer at the press conference and things like that. Yeah, we will definitely have a different look. I think we've got some agency owners coming on over the next couple of days, and some people working in football, which should be fascinating too, because obviously there's a huge amount of turmoil in the football and the sporting world. So actually getting people who are at the center of that could be very, very interesting. If you're watching for the 6th day in a row, thank you very, very much. We really do appreciate you. If you're watching on LinkedIn or if you're watching on YouTube, that's fantastic. We do appreciate it. We could really do with people sharing this and getting it out there whilst it's live. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Singapore time, and 7 a.m. now in the US as the clocks went back or forward. Can't remember. Back.
Forward.
As the clocks went forward. So now it's 5 hours to New York. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. And obviously there's a vlog tonight at 6 o'clock.